In the Kingdom of Helmuth, we find ourselves in the midst of chaos caused by Vermouth and his 4 companions. Their goal is to defeat all the demon kings, and so far they have succeeded in defeating 3. The other members of the team are Sienna, a wise wizard, Anise, a faithful healer, Molon, a brave tank, and our protagonist, Hamel, who is known as the Stupid One. Hamel sees Vermouth as a rival, but when a monster attacks Vermouth, Hamel runs to protect him and is wounded in the process. As he lay dying, Hamel says goodbye to his friends. It turns out that Hamel has been reincarnated 300 years after his death on the mission to eliminate the Demon Kings. He has retained his memories of his past life and has now been reborn as a descendant of the hero Vermouth. Hamel has been reborn as Eugene Lionheart, a 13-year-old boy. We learn that Vermouth had many descendants, but only those from his official wife's line are recognized. Eugene belongs to an indirect branch of the family and is not allowed to use real swords or train in mana, the energy used to perform magic. Despite this disadvantage, Eugene practices with a wooden sword and surprises his father with his serious demeanor and dark aura. The next day is the Lionheart lineage succession ceremony, a tradition that occurs every 10 years to determine which child between the ages of 10 and 15 is worthy of the Lionheart surname. Both the direct and indirect branches participate in the competition, but only the direct line is allowed to use real weapons and train in mana. This is because the direct line is favored over the indirect branches, and it is not expected that someone from a branch will outperform those from the direct line. Despite coming from an indirect branch, Eugene is incredibly talented. His father feels guilty for not being able to match Eugene's ability. There will be 3 children from the direct line and 6 from the indirect branches competing in the succession ceremony. One of the direct line children is the son of Vermouth's first wife, and the other 2 are twins from his second wife. Some of the indirect branches hold more authority than others, with only a few considered to be of lower standing. As Eugene prepares for the competition, he begins to remember his past life and realizes that he was not as talented as he thought. Vermouth was truly a genius, known as the God of War and praised by all. His comrades were also highly skilled in their respective fields. Eugene becomes frustrated and wonders if the Demon King is still alive. In his past life, Vermouth had promised to defeat the Demon King of Imprisonment, and it was because of that promise that peace had been maintained for 300 years. As they travel to the main territory of the Lionhearts, Eugene wonders what challenges lie ahead. When Eugene arrives at the kingdom, he notices that only those belonging to the direct line are allowed to wear an emblem on their left side. He is given a maid to help him with anything he needs and asks her to show him the gym. Outside, he sees a boy and a girl, the twins Kian and Ciel, making fun of him for being poor. The twins give him a warning and then leave, but the other boy watches from a distance until he is caught by the girl. Eugene is training with a wooden spear when the twins return and ask him what he is doing. Eugene replies sarcastically, calling Kian an idiot. Kian becomes angry and demands an apology, but Eugene doesn't believe he is sincere. The twins continue to harass Eugene and order him to clean the carriage he used. Eugene tells the maid to clean it instead, which only angers Kian more. Cian picks up a wooden sword and challenges Eugene to a duel. Eugene tries to avoid accepting the duel, but Cian is persistent and becomes increasingly annoying. Eventually, Eugene agrees and starts to remove the weights he has on his clothing. Kian is shocked by the amount of weight Eugene had been carrying. The 2 men take their positions and in an instant, Eugene easily defeats Kian, causing him to vomit. Kian's sister doesn't understand what happened and thinks Eugene must have cheated by using magic. She complains that it's unfair, but eventually accepts the outcome. A man named Hezar arrives and takes Kian away to train him. Hezar asks Kian what happened and Eugene explains the events of the duel. In the end, they decide to end the competition and leave. Later that night, another competitor arrives, and the rest will arrive the following day. Jean tells his mother about the duel and how he was humiliated by Eugene, a commoner. His mother, the second wife of the direct line Anicelia, is furious and slaps Kian. She asks Hisa to take Cian away and train him. She also tells Ciel to stay close to Eugene, saying that if she had the chance, she would kill him, but she would be the first suspect and the guardians of the family code would come for her. She asks Ciel to befriend Eugene instead. The next day, the three heirs of the collateral lines arrive. The children Deacon, Hansen, and Jewies, who are 11, 14, and 10 years old, respectively, arrive. The head of the family also arrives, and everyone gathers to greet him. The legal wife, Theonis, and the eldest son of the direct family are present, as is Eode Lionheart, who is first in the line of succession. Gilad Lionheart arrives, accompanied by his younger brother Gion. Giladi greets everyone and invites them to dinner together. The family is seated at the table. Despite being from a branch family, they are highly regarded. They are accompanied by a man named Loberian from the Red Tower, who is the disciple of Sienna's disciple. 300 years ago, Sienna became the youngest Tower Master in the history of Aroth when she ascended to the rank of Master of the Green Tower. During the meal, Gilad makes Kian apologize to Eugene and praises Eugene for his skill in defeating Kian despite training alone. They then explain that the first test in the competition is a labyrinth with traps and monsters, which are actually illusions created by Loberian. If the competitors can defeat the boss of the labyrinth, they will be able to choose a treasure from the Lionheart family treasure room. After dinner, Eugene is walking when he runs into Gargis and Disera. If he really defeated Tian, to which he confirms that he did, Eugene then leaves to train. However, Disera challenges Eugene to a spear fighting match. Gargis agrees to be the judge, and the fight begins. Eugene successfully blocks all of Disera's attacks, causing her to become frustrated and unsure of what to do, and Eugene leading to his victory in the match. Gargis and Disera want to team up with Eugene in order to defeat the direct line, as this has never happened before. Anicilia is determined to find a way for her children to survive and is hoping that Eode will be chosen by Loberian, causing him to leave the family for a while so that her children can become stronger and take the first position of successor. The day of the test arrives, and Loberian gives each of the competitors the ability to create their own weapon using magic. He also gives them a necklace that will alert them if they are in danger or want to leave the labyrinth. They all enter the portal that leads to the labyrinth, and Eugene, who is familiar with labyrinths from his previous life, takes control of the situation. 3 of the competitors have already been disqualified, while the others are still in the labyrinth. Loberian and Gilad are observing each of them and discussing their weaknesses. The eldest son seems more interested in magic, but his mother doesn't want him to pursue that path. However, his father wants him to follow his dreams. Loberian mentions that his favorite story is about Sienna, while Gilad's favorite character is likely Hamel, due to his surprise at Eugene's ability. Both Loberian and Gilad are speechless while watching Eugene fight, as the troll they sent him against was meant to test how he escaped, not to fight him. However, Eugene easily defeats the troll. Gargis also manages to defeat the troll, but is so severely injured that he faints. Kian escapes from the troll and joins his sister Ciel, but is startled when Disera appears and scares him with her scream. Disera had set up an ambush, but it fails and she tries to run away. Kian and Ciel chase after her all the way to the end of the labyrinth, and by chance they reach the center and find the final boss there. Eugene is already there, hiding in a corner, and asks why the 3 of them arrived together. He says he waited for them because he was curious about who would arrive first. Eugene is curious about who arrived first, and Ciel tells him it was him. Eugene wants to give up his spot to Kiel and Kyan because he knows he can easily defeat the monster on his own. He says it would be sad for them to have struggled to get there, only for him to win easily. The monster will only attack if someone gets within a certain distance, so Eugene suggests that they attack it in the order of their arrival. Disera goes first, followed by Cyan and then Ciel. Each of them will fight alone. Eugene tells Disera that if she doesn't dare to fight, she should surrender, but she refuses. Kyan says that if Eugene fights, he will go last, and if he defeats Eugene, Eugene will have to call him Big Brother for the rest of his life. This motivates Cayenne. The final boss is a Minotaur, and Desera begins the fight. However, she is easily overpowered, and the Minotaur catches her, ending the fight. It doesn't attack her anymore because she is an illusion. Cayenne is next and turns his sword into ki, a technique that requires 10 years of practice with mana to achieve. However, the person who created the labyrinth, Loberian, has disabled the use of ki, so everyone is on equal footing. Cayenne goes straight for the Minotaur. Cayenne manages to inflict small cuts on him, but they're not enough. He goes for its legs, but is blocked by the knee, then is caught and thrown, also missed. It's Ciel's turn, but she prefers not to fight since she can't use ki either. Eugene thinks she is smarter than her brother. He picks up his sword and shield. The fight begins. Eugene climbs up the Minotaur's body. He dodges all his attacks and goes all the way up to his head. The Minotaur throws a fist towards his face, thus hitting himself. Then, Eugene begins to cut him in his neck, mainly in his artery, managing to knock him down completely and thus winning the fight. Cayenne is speechless and feels some kind of emotion, but it is not fear. Most likely, it is admiration towards his power. The ceremony is over. Gallade is surprised, but especially Loberian, since he could easily defeat and go through his labyrinth as if it was nothing. Gallade sent several men to investigate Eugene's town, where he is well known for his persistence in training. Gallade comments that he was born to fight. Loberian asks him if he doesn't mind that he is better than his sons. However, Gallade is happy because it will make the Lionheart name shine a whole lot brighter. Loberian continues to insist on what would happen if he decides to become the next heir and thus become the new leader of the Lionheart family. To which Gallade replies that the position of the head must be held by the best of the Lionhearts. If his family cannot secure it, it is rightfully his. Loberian proposes that Gallade adopt him as his son to prevent the collateral families from causing unrest. All the children except for the 3 who lost first gather. Gallade is wondering why they failed. Iode didn't make it to the labyrinth because he was distracted by magic, while Cayenne and Ciel made it but didn't defeat the Minotaur. On the other hand, Eugene performed perfectly. Gallade congratulates them all, but especially Eugene. They all leave to rest, but Gallade asks Eugene to come with him. Gallade is about to give Eugene his treasure, and Ciel feels jealous because she has never been to the treasure room. As they walk, Gallade talks about Eugene's talent in being able to use any kind of weapon. Currently, the sword is the forte of the Lionheart family, but in the past, Vermouth was able to use any type of weapon and was called the God of War and Master of all. He also mentions that Vermouth was not the only one proficient with all weapons. The other was Hamel, another great master who, like Vermouth, was not inferior and always sought to surpass his limits. In the end, Hamel sacrificed himself for his friends. They arrive at the place where all the treasures are kept, and Eugene is the first person who is not the head of a family to come there. There is a senate made up of the old lions of the Lionheart family. Eugene asks for the sacred sword, but it is not possible for him to obtain it as it is a symbol of the Lionheart family. Another reason is that no one has been recognized by the sacred sword after Vermouth. They open the chamber and Eugene enters excitedly, looking intently at the sacred sword. This video ends here. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to stay tuned for next part and more recaps on all your favorite anime and shows. Thank you for watching.